There's a kind of aircraft that even if you can see it, radar can't. A black flying wing, silent, gliding through the sky like a ghost in the night. Its name is the Northrop B-2 Spirit, the most expensive stealth bomber in U.S. military history. Each one costs nearly $2 billion. But the B-2 isn't just a symbol of cutting-edge technology. It's a message. A tool the United States uses to say, we can strike you no matter how deep underground you hide, no matter how dense your air defenses are. In 2025, when President Trump ordered a strike on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities including Fordow, buried more than 90 meters under solid rock, only one aircraft was chosen for the job. The B-2. Because, quite simply, no other weapon could do it. But to understand why such a machine came into existence and why America has kept it for over 30 years despite the enormous cost, we have to go back to where it all began, the late 1970s. In the final years of the Cold War, the Pentagon faced a troubling question: if nuclear war ever broke out, how could the US possibly get past the Soviet Union's vast network of radar and surface-to-air missiles? America already had strategic bombers like the B-52, but they were too big, too slow, and far too easy to detect. In a real war, their chances of reaching Soviet targets were slim to none. The answer wasn't speed. It was invisibility. That was the moment when stealth, real, operational stealth, entered the world of military aviation. At first, the US developed the F-117 Nighthawk, the first true stealth aircraft, built for precise surgical strikes. But the F-117 was too small. It couldn't carry long-range nuclear weapons. So a new project was born, top secret, called the Advanced Technology Bomber, which would later become the B-2 Spirit. The mission was clear: build a machine that could fly thousands of miles, carry nuclear warheads, strike deep inside Soviet territory, and return safely without ever being detected. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a warning. A symbol of what the US called strategic deterrence: you won't know when we strike until it's far too late. Some people think the B-2 just appeared one day as a sudden leap in technology. But in truth, it was the result of decades of testing and a deeply classified program known as the Advanced Technology Bomber, or ATB for short. ATB was launched in the late 1970s, when the Pentagon realized that aircraft like the B-52 or even the newer B-1 wouldn't survive in Soviet airspace. Not with thousands of radar stations and advanced air defense systems ready to shoot them down. The US needed something radically different. A machine that could slip past every detection system, carry nuclear weapons, and fly thousands of miles without being intercepted. And so, they turned to a forgotten idea from the past: the flying wing. It was a design Northrop had experimented with back in the 1940s, with an aircraft called the YB-49. That project had been cancelled at the time, not because the concept was wrong, but because the technology didn't exist yet to make it flyable. No advanced computers. No digital controls. But now, with new materials, onboard computers, and fly-by-wire systems, Northrop had the chance to revive an idea that was decades ahead of its time. And from that, the B-2 Spirit began to take shape in the shadows of classified labs, under the close watch of the US Air Force and DARPA. The name Spirit wasn't chosen at random. It meant to evoke a ghost, something you couldn't see or hear, but that was always present, and could strike at any moment. Building a stealth bomber like the B-2 wasn't just about technology, it was about power and politics. And behind the sleek silhouette of the B-2 Spirit was a fierce behind-the-scenes battle between two giants of the American defense industry, Northrop and Boeing. Initially, no single company owned the B-2 program. Northrop was selected as the lead developer, but Boeing was brought in to assist, especially on weapons systems and mission integration. But tensions flared quickly. Northrop, the originator of the flying wing concept, wanted full control over the design. Boeing, with far more political clout, wanted a greater role in the flight systems, weapons integration and, of course, a bigger share of the multi-billion-dollar budget. For years, the two companies clashed. At one point, Boeing even lobbied Washington to take over the lead role, arguing that Northrop was too small and lacked experience managing projects of this scale. In the end, the U.S. Air Force sided with Northrop. They believed only Northrop truly understood the intricacies of the flying wing and how to make it invisible to radar. Boeing stayed on in a supporting role, but from start to finish, the B-2 Spirit bore the unmistakable signature of Northrop. This story shows that behind every iconic weapon lies a hidden war where technology, money, and political power collide silently, like a stealth battle in itself. For nearly a decade, the B-2 program was cloaked in total secrecy. No photos. No press. No leaks. No one outside a tiny circle knew what the US was building. It wasn't until November 1988, at Plant 42 in Palmdale, California, that the US Air Force finally revealed the first public image of the B-2 Spirit. The reveal lasted only a few minutes. A black aircraft slid silently out of the hangar and came to a stop in front of hundreds of cameras and binoculars. The audience was stunned. The press called it a spaceship from the future. No vertical stabilizers. No tail. Just a smooth, boomerang-shaped flying wing unlike anything the world had ever seen. But what mattered most was this: only the exterior was shown. All the technical details, speed, range, payload, stealth capabilities remained classified. No one was allowed to see inside the cockpit. No one knew how the flight systems worked. The B-2 had stepped into the light, but it kept its mystery intact. And that mystery only deepened its aura. It became a symbol of next-generation warfare, something the world had to fear, even though it had never seen it in action. When people first laid eyes on the B-2, they thought it looked like an alien spacecraft. No tail. No vertical fins. Just a curved triangle of flying wing. But that strange design wasn't just for looks. It was the key to invisibility. Every surface on the B-2 was engineered to deflect radar waves away from the source. On top of that, it was coated with special material that absorbed radar energy instead of bouncing it back. The result? On radar screens, a B-2 shows up as nothing more than a large bird. But stealth isn't just skin deep. The B-2 uses an extremely sophisticated digital flight control system. Without a tail or vertical fins, it's inherently unstable in flight. If not for constant computer corrections, pilots wouldn't be able to control it at all. Noise was also minimized. The B-2's engines are buried deep inside the airframe. Its exhaust is vented through recessed channels on the top of the aircraft, reducing heat signatures and making it harder to track with infrared sensors. And then there's its range. Fully fueled, a B-2 can fly over 11,000 kilometers without refueling. If needed, it can refuel midair and literally fly around the world. As for firepower, the B-2 has two internal bomb bays. It can carry nuclear bombs, like the B-61 or B-83. GPS-guided smart bombs. And most notably, the 30,000-pound GBU-57 MOP bunker buster designed to destroy targets buried deep underground, like Fordow in Iran. All this technology wasn't built to win a single battle. It was built to guarantee one thing: if the US ever decided to launch a nuclear strike, no one could stop it in time. 4 years after its debut, the B-2 Spirit remained mostly a symbol, a deterrent. Everyone knew it was deadly, but no one had seen it used in combat. That changed in 1999, during the NATO bombing campaign in Yugoslavia. It was the B-2's first real mission, and it made an impression. In just the first few days of the operation, B-2s took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, flew straight to the Balkans over 30 hours non-stop, struck targets in Serbia with pinpoint accuracy, and then flew all the way back to the US. A round trip of more than 20,000 kilometers. No refueling stops. No layovers. A historic first in the world of strategic bombing. From that point on, the B-2 became a regular presence in America's major conflicts. 2001, striking Taliban targets in Afghanistan. 2003, leading the opening salvos of the Iraq War, destroying Saddam Hussein's command centers. 2011, hitting military targets in Libya during the campaign to overthrow Gaddafi. In each of these missions, the B-2 played a critical role, opening the attack, taking out enemy air defenses and radar systems, and clearing the way for other aircraft to move in. All of it happened at night. No one heard a thing. No one saw it coming. By the time the last bomb fell, the B-2 was already hundreds of kilometers away. But those missions, impressive as they were just the beginning. It wasn't until 2025 that the B-2 returned to the geopolitical stage in a truly historic way, bombing targets deep inside Iran, striking some of the most heavily protected nuclear sites in the Middle East. June 21, 2025. A brief statement appears on President Trump's social media account. We have successfully completed the strike on 3 nuclear facilities in Iran: Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. It was the first time in nearly 4 decades that the United States had directly bombed Iranian territory. And the aircraft chosen for that historic mission, unsurprisingly, was the Northrop B-2 Spirit. Why the B-2? Because only the B-2 could reach Fordow, a nuclear facility buried more than 90 meters beneath solid limestone and shielded by some of the most advanced air defense systems in the Middle East. Other aircraft couldn't carry a bomb powerful enough. And even if they couldn't get in without being detected. Only the B-2 could carry the GBU-57 MOP, a nearly 14-ton bunker buster, and approach the target silently, hitting the weak point buried deep underground. This wasn't an isolated strike. Israel had already spent a week bombing Iranian targets, but they couldn't take out Fordow. Trump hesitated at first. He was known for avoiding entanglements in Middle Eastern wars. But this time, he said Iran had crossed a red line by continuing to enrich uranium. And so, the B-2 was sent in. The mission was carried out in silence. No fighter escorts. No announcements. By the time the bombs hit Fordow, the world realized, the US had officially entered the war. Right after, Trump issued a stark warning demanding Iran's unconditional surrender or face further attacks. It was a message that sounded like an ultimatum. The strike sent shockwaves across the region. Russia, China, and many Arab nations condemned it. Iran vowed to retaliate. Even within the US, Trump's own allies were split. Some praised the move as strength, others saw it as a betrayal of his America First promise. But whatever the controversy, one thing was undeniable. Without the B-2, this strike could not have happened. And with that hit on Fordow, the Northrop B-2 Spirit, after more than 30 years in service, proved it's not just a relic of the past, but still America's trump card today. The B-2 Spirit is one of the most controversial aircraft in U.S. military history. Why? Because each plane costs nearly $2 billion to build, and that's not counting the enormous maintenance, operation, and 24/7 specialized crew required to keep it in the air. People ask, is it worth it? In an era of drones, satellites, and hypersonic missiles, does it make sense to maintain a small, ultra-expensive fleet like this? But military strategists know something the public often forgets. The B-2 isn't just a weapon, it's a silent threat. When a nation knows the US can strike its nuclear core without warning, without detection, that knowledge alone is enough to change its every calculation. That's why the US has held onto the B-2 for over 3 decades, even as it develops successors like the B-21 Raider. To America's rivals, the B-2 isn't just an aircraft. It's a symbol of precision, surprise, and power that cannot be intercepted. But with that power comes risk and responsibility. Every time the B-2 takes off, the world holds its breath, because if this bomber is in the sky, something serious is underway. The 2025 Iran strike proved that. It wasn't just a military tactic, it was a strategic message to the world. We can hit anyone, anywhere, anytime. The Northrop B-2 Spirit isn't the most powerful weapon. It isn't the newest technology. But it's the kind of weapon you never see coming and never see coming back. For more than 3 decades from the Cold War to Iran 2025, the B-2 has kept one consistent role: when things get dangerous, the ghost is summoned. And maybe, that's its greatest value. Not to fight every battle, but to remind the world that sometimes, the most dangerous punches are the ones you never see. The only question now is, in an age of autonomous drones, hypersonic missiles, and artificial intelligence, how much longer can the B-2 hold its throne?